This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. DistroKid is the easiest way for musicians to get their music into all the platforms: Amazon, Apple, Tidal, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Plus, you've got unlimited uploads, and the artist keeps 100% of what they make. But what I love most about DistroKid is their app. The design of it just makes the whole process so easy. Now you can be sure that you're doing everything you need to do to get your music out there. Go to distrokid.com to check it out or download the app now.
Allow me to live and breathe like a man.
You've heard his words on classic albums like Pacific Ocean Blue and Friends. His 1969 collaboration with Brian Wilson, A World of Peace Must Come, gained almost legendary status as one of pop's most storied lost albums before being resurrected to great acclaim by Light in the Attic in 2008. Now you're cordially invited to take a trip into the mind of poet and songwriter Stephen J. Kalinich. Heyday Again Records presents I Love My Life, a postcard from one of the last standing poets of peace and excitation. Order your copy today. I Love My Life by Stephen J. Kalinich and Friends. You'll see why heavy hitters like Brian Wilson, Dennis Wilson, Paul McCartney, Steve Cropper, P.F. Sloan, and Diana Ross have all worked with him. I Love My Life by Stephen J. Kalinich. Order today at realgonemusic.com. Again, that's realgonemusic.com. The second single from Future Prophet Records is here. Birthday Girl presents Never the Sound, available right now on Future Prophet Records. That's Future, Prophet, records.com. Order now. You seem to be a guy who was pretty comfortable with yourself.
I am, being in CSNY and living and loving with Joni, I never felt that I was talented enough to be there. I never did. But I changed my mind about my self-worth when I was making music with David alone.
That's interesting. So you're talking about 1972, that changing a little bit?
Uh-huh.
That's interesting that you say that. I'm a big fan of Joni's work. I'd say my favorite of her records is Hijira. And, the winding pathways that her songs take, you have a very different kind of gift that she does. I think that's why ineffably she wandered into jazz terrain, because I don't think she has it in her to write a simple song. Welcome to Discograffiti, the deep dive podcast for music obsessives that gives freaks like you and me the chance to connect with a brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebroe, and with 3 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on Graham Nash's debut solo LP, Songs for Beginners. Psst, along with our special guest, Graham Nash. Here are just a few of the many things that Graham discusses with Discograffiti in this podcast. The 3 albums that Graham was making at the same time during that era, the overly complex relationships which fueled Graham's songwriting at the time, the track that features the Grateful Dead, David Crosby, and Neil Young as Graham's backing band, details on Graham's friendship with Terry Reid, the very first Crosby and Nash studio session, which wound up devolving into a complete debacle, Graham's experience working with Judy Sill as producer of Jesus Was a Crossmaker, and an in-depth deep dive on every song off Songs for Beginners. Coming up, we've got incredible deep dive series on Lenny Waronker, Love, Jefferson Airplane, and a hell of a lot more. So don't miss out. Open up your listening app right now and subscribe. For over 4 years now, Discograffiti's Friday episodes have been completely free, and it's been my pleasure. But for a variety of reasons, Discograffiti's now moved to the subscription-based Patreon as our primary platform. Moving forward, our public stream will feature a teaser of the Friday episode and a Tuesday teaser of the bonus episode, and that's all. But here's the good news. Only $5 a month will get you the weekly Friday podcast to which you become accustomed. That's it. It's a no-brainer at just $1 an episode. And just that little bit will be what's required to help the show survive. To sweeten the pot, you'll also get regular installments of the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's Rudy Fishman's podcast within a podcast featuring our Patreon members as guests. You'll also get access to over 100 back episodes of that show. The $10 Lieutenant tier gets you all that, plus access to half of the Patreon archive. That's hundreds of additional episodes, plus copies of my personal show notes, which include invaluable research, star ratings, and reviews. But the $20 major tier is the place to be, unless you can support the show on even higher tiers, which, if you can afford it, offers substantial perks, including advertising on the show and selecting the guests and artists I cover. With the major tier and above, you get it all. The Monday bonus episodes, aka the best stuff, the Friday show, the Soldiers of Sound podcast, plus access to the entire archive. That's many hundreds of Patreon episodes, an absolutely endless barrage of music entertainment, including 50 episodes of The Private Press with Paul Major, Rock Cousteau, Queasy Listening, and so much more. This tier will also be the only way to access the entire upcoming Spirit series, the entire Love series, the entire Lenny Waronker series, and the entire Jefferson Airplane series. Frankly, it'll keep you busy for the rest of your life. So support the podcast that's been supporting you for years. Discograffiti's calling, and it needs you. So don't risk feeling guilty by not giving. But enough of me yapping. Go on, subscribe now. Visit patreon.com/discograffiti and find the tier that's right for you. And away we go then! We're at the outset of the solo era kicking into gear in a big way, and yesterday we spoke about David's amazing solo album, and then yours wound up arriving last, May 28th, 1971, your first solo album, Songs for Beginners. The making of this directly followed your breakup with Joni, and a lot of the songs, correct me if I'm wrong, but having read Wild Tales, many of the songs are about your time together, and a lot of it was written at Rita Coolidge's house, right?
Yes.
So this is a heady time with, it seems, at least to me, from the outside looking in, like there's so many crossed wires. There's Steve and Rita, you and Joni. There's all kinds of attentions being crisscrossed all over the place. I think a lot of the, lifestyle experimentation during that time that seems so appealing to me, it seems like some of the complexity of that was coming up at that time. Am I wrong in assuming that?
No, it was an incredibly complex time. Joni and I had just finished our relationship, which started from me meeting her, I think, in early 67, all the way through to the end of 71, And then I was with Rita for a couple of years, and it was a complicated situation. I first met Rita when we were doing the background vocals on Love the One You're With in Stephen's studio.
Graham, can I make a request? Your voice sounds like it's swimming. Is there a different place that you can, I don't know if you're sitting in the same spot, but it sounds very different.
I'm going to walk into the other room. Let me call you back on my phone.
My first question about Songs for Beginners is, what is the knee-jerk image that you think of when you think of it? The memory that's most at the forefront of your consciousness?
The first thing I think of when I think of Songs for Beginners, I wondered why people really loved this record. And I believe that it was because it was incredibly simple. It was a really simple album. And what happened is because we'd done CSN and we'd done Deja Vu, I had many songs left over that couldn't be used by CSN or CSNY. And that's why I made Songs for Beginners, because I needed to get these songs out of my being so I had room for more songs to come in.
I mean, that's certainly pragmatic, but the key word that you used that I'd like to talk about just for a minute before we get into the track for track, that I think, at least for me personally, is the key to unlocking this record, is simple. but it's a deceptive term because I feel like there's a lot of incredibly complicated issues and things that you're singing about on here. And I feel like it's a way to emphasize the need for humanity to find simple solutions to problems that they always wind up overcomplicating. So your style of music winds up delivering these songs in a way that ram these points home perfectly.
Yeah, the songs I write, because I'm an ordinary person, same as everybody else in the world, the songs I write are simple because they apply to everybody.
Right. You know, the making of this was at a very fraught time in your life. I mean, it may have been a very good time for all I know, but it directly followed your breakup with Joni. And many of the songs are about your time together, as you talk about in Wild Tales, your autobiography. And yet a lot of it was written at Rita Coolidge's house when you first moved in there, right?
That's true. But don't forget, I was making 3 albums at the same time.
Right. So you were with Simon and, how do you pronounce their names? Simon and Marieke?
Simon and Marieke, yeah. The Fool.
Right.
3 people from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam, and Barry Finch, who was an English person. So I was making that record, and I was also making a record of spoken poetry by my friend Charles John Courteau.
Were you literally cutting all these in the same studio at the same time?
Yep.
Amazing. So it was January 1971 at Wally Hyder's in LA, and I believe that Crosby's record was being produced at the same time, or it was at least wrapping up at this time.
But in San Francisco. And thank you very much for, sending me all the Perro things.
Did you get a chance to hear any of that stuff?
I did, yeah. I listened to Laughing, without a lead vocal. That was fascinating to hear. I definitely understand why Jerry Garcia thought that his pedal steel work, particularly on Laughing, was where he wanted to go with the pedal steel.
I mean, it's a crime against humanity that he stopped after Laughing.
I know, that's insane, isn't it?
It is, because like we were talking about yesterday, his work on Teach Your Children, he had nailed the traditional use of the pedal steel. And on Laughing, he took it into an area that had not been heard before.
That's right. And also on I Used to Be a King also, he did the same thing.
Exactly. And so you're on fire at this time. And by the way, all those tracks, I figured that was your work along with Stephen Barncard, was it not?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, good. So Songs for Beginners peaked at number 15 on Billboard. Chicago made it to number 35 as a single. A second single, Military Madness, was a hit in Australia, reaching number 8 on the chart there. The album went gold. There were all kinds of guest appearances on the recording, including David, Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, Dave Mason, David Lindley, Rita Coolidge, and Neil Young under the pseudonym Joe Yankee. And we kick off with Military Madness. All right, that about does it. To hear the full episode, just visit patreon.com/discograffiti and either subscribe as a private or higher, or just purchase it as a one-off. If you are a fan of the show, please do one of those two to help ensure Discograffiti's continued existence. Stay tuned, because next week brings upon us a very revealing exclusive interview with Beach Boys archival producer extraordinaire, Mark Lynette. Okay, here's the week up ahead. This Sunday, our weekly show within a show, the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast, drops for our Patreon's private tier. These are real people with talent and a burning fire deep inside, just like you and I. Then, come Tuesday, the major tier gets a very special treat. Tuesday's bonus episode is Spirit Part 3, wherein the band released their most fondly remembered LP, 12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus, which also became their commercial high point. An FM underground classic created after the band had parted ways with producer Lou Adler, it has since served as the introductory keyhole for most of the band's fans. There will be a very short sneak peek running publicly for free on Tuesday morning, but the entirety of the show will only be accessible on the major tier of our Patreon. A heartfelt Discograffiti thanks goes out to my beautiful wife and son, Jen and Mason, Graham Nash, Rudy Fishman, Becky Boyd, my mom, my dad, my incredibly loyal fans, and especially the entire Patreon community, the Soldiers of Sound. I love every last one of you, and this show would not exist without you, my friends. Speaking of friends, it's high time for some new ones. They're in our Facebook group, Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound. That's the best way to find out what's coming up on the show, but there's a hell of a lot more. You get recaps of the day in music history, the ability to pitch questions to guests, polls that put you in the driver's seat on guest and band decisions, and access to a thriving creative hub if you're looking for a collaborator. So make sure you don't miss out. You can find the link to the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound Facebook page right there in the show notes. And if you don't mess with the Zuck, no sweat. Just email me at info@discograffiti.com and I'll keep you in the loop. So now that it's done and you want more, another way to dive even deeper into the classic rock and roll from the 1960s is to go to the Beach Boys Season 1, Catch a Wave, 1961 to 1964, from episode 189 on, the Righteous Brothers Bill Medley interview, that's 181 and 182, my interview with the Free Design, that's 160 to 162, my epic interview with the Mamas and Papas Michelle Phillips, that's 141 to 159, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, that's 137, my 12-hour interview with Terry Kirkman and Jules Alexander from the Association, that's 109 to 113, Vashti Bunyan reading her entire output, that's 103 to 104, Sergio Diaz from Os Mutantes, that's 86 and 87, Bert Summer, that's 83 and 84, Sweetwater is episode 79, a tribute to David Crosby, 77 and 78, Andrew Tuttle rates the Monks, 74, Jim Florentine on Black Sabbath is 64 to 68, Lou Barlow on the Zombies is 59 and 60, Marvin Gaye biographer David Ritz rates Marvin Gaye, that's 45 to 47. Blind Faith is 43. Anthony Fantano rates the Velvet Underground, it's 32 and 33. Bob Forrest rates the band is 25 and 27. Monkees manager Andrew Sandoval rates the Monkees, that's 22 and 23. Don Randy rates David Axelrod as 17. Badfinger is 16. The Bee Gees is 10 and 11. Sly and the Family Stone is 5, 6, and 7. And Pink Floyd is 1 and 2. And of course, be sure to mark your calendars, because next Friday, January 23rd, we're coming at you with the single greatest interview with Mark Lynette that you've ever heard. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. And so, from now till then, don't let our youth go to waste, lads and ladies. It's Discograffiti!